Greetings. My name is Louise Dente, and I welcome you to yet another edition of Cultural Caravan. On this edition is a special as we explore emergency preparedness. Are you prepared in case of emergency, either domestic, foreign, or otherwise? And we're joined by an expert in emergency preparedness, Brother Ali Evans. He is the proprietor of X Factor Prep. Welcome to the Cultural Caravan.
How you doing, Louise? Thanks for having me.
All right, welcome back. Well, you know, so much has happened, Ali, since we last spoke. From some very tragic circumstances happened in certain schools around the country where you had children actually act out violence on other children, to domestic terrorism. Just here in New York, where you had a gentleman mow down several people on bicycles. Please talk to us. First, before we even go there, what actually encouraged you to go into this line of work?
I've always kind of marched to the beat of my own drum. I've always kind of made my own path. But what actually brought me into teaching this, Hurricane Katrina. I was in New York for 9/11. I'm a Navy veteran. At the time, I was just becoming, my daughter was not yet to be born. My wife at the time and I lived in Brooklyn, and we went through the blackouts, we went through 9/11. I was always kind of forward thinking about making sure that me and my family were okay. And then it kind of had to extend out to the extended family, because the other people realized that I was capable. So they were like, wait a minute, show me, tell me what I need to do. I'm gonna show up at your house and use your resources. And I was like, wait a minute, no, let's do something about that. And then I saw Hurricane Katrina. I think that was 2004, 2005. And Hurricane Katrina changed everything, because Hurricane Katrina, I stopped and watched on the news as they were talking about refugees. And I had to stop for a second. And I really had to go, wait a minute, wait, that's not right. That's a term that we usually apply to others from other places. This is a jewel of the American South on the Gulf. New Orleans is, it's not New Orleans, it's New Orleans. And New Orleans is home to a lot of things. A lot of our music, a lot of our culture, a lot of other things come straight from that wonderful mixture of people, that happen to live down there, and me seeing them woefully unprepared and literally being called refugees made me go, nope, I can't do it. I'm not gonna be the one who's gonna be standing in a line outside of some mega stadium waiting to feed my family. And something else that happened in New Orleans that really kind of triggered things for me was I watched and I knew that there were some people in New Orleans that you never hear about, but they were fine. You know the people who were fine? The people who were living in the swamps. They lived in the water anyway. Gators and crawfish were more eating for us now. As long as you don't pollute it, we all right. A disaster is really more a mindset. In 2008, just a couple of years later after Katrina, 2008, when we watched that, everybody talked about, oh my God, such a disaster, the financial system, everything crashed, and everybody was concerned about their 401ks and their pensions, and you know who was okay? The people who were eating ramen noodles and sardines anyway. It didn't affect them. Life was still the same hustle, day to day. Every time I have to talk to people about preparedness, you know who the masters are? Those without. If you look at the homeless, the people you walk around, the people who, oh my God, they smell, they do this, that, and the other, and I guarantee you they won't go hungry. And a lot of them are out there voluntarily. And I know that sounds weird to say, but some of them prefer being out there because at least then they don't have to answer to anybody else. They'll tell you where the best food is. They'll tell you what size box you need for what time of year. And I kid you not when I say that. A short box is for the winter. You know why? Because the heat reflects right back at you. You use a tall refrigerator box when you need that AC in the summertime. Are you serious? Is there a different type of box for living on the streets? There is. But those without, No, we're the most resourceful people on the planet. When we don't have, we will find a way. That survival instinct is instinctive for a reason. There's a reason why the species will always propagate.
Now, you mentioned a lot. You talked about the fact that some of the people that we perceive as having less have more knowledge of survival than we do. And I guess the question here for those of us who have a place to live, have food to eat, who are not even thinking about having to worry about supermarket because we feel there's a supermarket out, what do we do in the event that all of a sudden, let's start with some of the basic things. Electricity goes out. That's something that happens. This is summertime. We have situations that happens pretty frequently in the summer. What can you do if you're without, first of all, refrigeration for your food? Let's not even talk about the cell phone for a moment, okay? And some basic things. Just tell us some of the things people should have on them in the event of something like that.
You always want to have a backup power charger if you can for your cell phone, because that's one of your most important things. That's going to be for your communications, and most people kind of rely on communications to get them through point A to point B. As far as your refrigerator and your freezer are concerned, they're sealed. Don't open them. You don't need the water to be ice cold. The water, just because the power's out, that tap water still works unless it doesn't. And if it doesn't, now we can start talking about other things. But if you're looking at your refrigerator, it's sealed, and as long as it's closed, it's just like a cooler. What happens? It pretty much stays cold unless you start to open it back and forth. Know your refrigerator, know your environment. And it doesn't make a difference if we're talking about the refrigerator and freezer, or we're just talking about your house. If there's a blackout, you should be able to get from one side of your house to the other with no lights. And if you can't, go home and do that. That's your homework assignment. Blindfold yourself. Go to the farthest end of your house and walk from one side all the way to the other. You should know where your tables are, your chairs. Oh, that bag that you like to leave right by the foyer. Oh, that book bag or the shoes that your son never picks up. Right. You should know your house inside and out, because that's your environment. That's your castle. No matter how big or how small. I guarantee you, if I go in the street right now and find a homeless person, they can tell me exactly where every single thing they own is.
So we think about the things that we take for granted. And again, we don't realize that we need them until we need them. Okay? So we talk about the fact that, you know, things that we just knowing our environment, which is something. Also, I was asking a question about the cell phone. As you know, the cell phone has become that crutch. That's something that if that item went out, even though most of us in here have a backup, right? Is those other people outside that don't have any way of contacting their contacts and everything else. What do we do to basically ensure let's talk about 2 weeks without electricity, 2 weeks without ability to contact anyone. What do we do? What do we need in order to survive in that type of reality?
Your village. You need your village. It'd be easy for me to tell you, okay, you need, batteries, and you need paper and matches and lighters, and that's great. That's all the stuff you guys will find on YouTube. The reality is, if you're going to do this, you need your village. It's your people around you that's going to help you survive. Everybody is made so they can get through something alone. You got to live and die on this planet alone. But when you're born and when you leave are the only two times you have to worry about that. Throughout the rest of that time, there's a support system. And if you're not relying on our support system, now you're in trouble, because now you've isolated yourself and boxed yourself away from resources that are available to you. I remember growing up, I knew everybody in my neighborhood. Everybody in my neighborhood knew me. Every parent had the right to scold me or discipline me if I did something wrong. But in the same breath, if they saw me hurt or in need, I was never going to be hurt or in need for long, because somebody was going to be there to help me. Your village. Part of why I created X Factor Prep, part of the reason I created basic training, part of the reason I created the entire program that I create is because we're missing that. Being able to get the oral history and traditions, the learning how to hunt, fish, and grow and garden, and knowing, hey, listen, if I know that his daddy's a mechanic and his mama's a nurse, and you're the librarian, and he's, well, guess what? Now I have resources that I can reach out to before I have to reach out to anybody else. I'm not going to another neighborhood or another culture or anybody else who may have another agenda to ask for that assistance. I can do it within. And you know how I know that works?
Oh.
Look at every other culture that's out here. The African American descendant, I hate to say of slaves, but I mean, we went through it, of enslaved Africans. We're different than a lot of other people on the planet because we don't necessarily have a singular point of reference to go back to for our culture. We have a continent, but that continent is full of different ethnic groups. Thank you, because the brother did definitely made me, I was going to say it, and I have to give it to the brother for making me check that. But because of the different ethnic groups that are from Africa, there are a lot of different things we can pull from. But the village is always part of it. That fire, no matter what ethnic group you look at, there's always that family dinner. Whether it was Sunday or whether it was after the hunt or the harvest, there was always that family dinner where what? The youngins got a chance to sit at the feet of the elders and do what? Learn.
And learn.
And the elders got to learn from the young ones because they got to figure out, okay, well, I'm not out there doing that anymore. You are, but you can tell me how to buffalo roll now.
Exactly. Now, you know, you mentioned something about the community because I recall when the blackout hit. One of my siblings happened to work in Manhattan, and her children were young at the time, and they lived in this house in Queens Village, and she had no way of getting back there. So that means they had to be in the dark by themselves. Luckily, you know, we lived within a vicinity where we could go to, you know, help them. But just think about it, and I'm asking you, those of you out there, to think about, if you are away and your child and you're working in Manhattan or you're working somewhere, do your children know what to do if there's no power? If you can't get to your family, or even if you have a relative who's disabled and cannot have, what mechanism do you have? What emergency plan do you have so that your children know what to do if you're not there for a few days? Luckily, you know, she was able to, you know, she had family who lived within a distance, but there are other situations where it's worse, you know, and the children were, you know. So I think that that's another thing. Having that emergency plan that your children know of is so critical. Now, one of the things as we were talking about is there had been situations, and this deals with society. As you know, our children go to school, and certainly there's a need. You know, some of our schools, as many of you know, have checked. People actually are checked. Our children are checked, and I know that that was something which a lot of us were concerned about. Why do our children have to go through metal detectors? I recall when this was years ago. I was teaching in Brownsville about maybe 2 decades ago, and the tragedy hit where one child came to school angry because of some bullying, and he brought a gun to a high school, and unfortunately 2 or 3 children were impacted, and that's actually set off this whole metal detector thing. And I know that whereas unfortunately a lot of our community schools, not all of them, have metal detectors, some of these schools that are in other neighborhoods outside of our community are where some of these tragedies have been taking place, where unfortunately children who are distressed or whatever it is. Long story short, what can someone do, whether it's in a school or even in the middle of Times Square, if some shooter starts to go off? What can you do, if anything, in a circumstance like that?
There are 3 basic things that it doesn't make a difference who's telling you, will tell you to do. One is run. 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 Get away from there. Get yourself to safety first. Same way if you're on a plane and it's going down, what do they tell you to do? Put the mask on your face first and then help your child. Why? Because if you're not running and getting to safety, then you're putting yourself in harm's way, and now you may just have more victims. The second is hide. If you can't run, then you hide. And you secure yourself in, because you're expecting to be what? Shot at. Your life is in danger. So you want to make sure you do what? You secure yourself. And then last but not least is fight. And when you fight, you're fighting for your life. There are no rules when you're fighting for your life. And that's the only reason you should be fighting. So run, hide, and fight are the three things no matter where you are. Now, there are some things you should do beforehand. We were just talking about the children. Your babysitter should be part of your emergency plan. If your babysitter is not a part of the emergency plan, I don't care if it's an aunt, or uncle, or somebody that you hire, they should be part of your emergency plan, because they will probably be the ones, when it goes down, that will have access to your children. And you're going to need to be able to get in contact with them or have them get in contact with you. You should also know your school's plan. And as parents, any parents in the room, make sure you talk to your school. Make sure you talk to the principal. Make sure that they're not doing the same exact drill, the same exact way every single time. Why? Because if there's an active shooter situation and that child only knows to go out of one door, if there's a fire and they only know to go out of one door to meet in that one place on the playground, you just did what? You set up a target-rich environment. If I'm an active shooter and I know all I have to do is ring that bell and I'm gonna get 100 people right here in this little area right here, ring that bell. I'm not going in the building with his metal detectors and possibly security. I'm gonna get you to come out the building and I'm gonna do what? I'm gonna take you all out. More bodies, a lot easier. So you wanna make sure you diversify, you wanna change things up, you wanna make sure that they're thinking differently. But the most important thing I can tell you before you get into a situation is, one, pay attention to your instincts and pay attention.
Exactly.
Most people are so busy doing this
Exactly.
that you're walking into cars and walking off of curbs, much less knowing that guy got a strange bulge and he's wearing a trench coat in 95-degree weather in Times Square. Nobody else thought that was interesting? Nobody? But you were busy doing this and you were texting and Instagramming and, God forbid, selfieing and doing, because now what did you do? Mm-hmm. You lost all perspective. You lost all sense of awareness. I guarantee you come out with me in the woods, the first thing that comes into play, your radar goes alert. You know why? Because it's a foreign place to you. Every little chirp, every little creak, you're going, what's that? Wait, what? Did you hear that? Is something coming for us? What? But because we're here and we're home and we're in such an urban environment where there's so many different things that are getting our attention, distracting us, we're not paying attention to all of it. We have a way of processing it all. We do it all the time. Every animal does. We just have a tendency, we're probably one of the only ones on the planet that ignore it.
Now, you've brought several items here that look like ordinary things that people should consider as they prepare their emergency plan. Please share with us.
I'm going to walk you guys through a couple of things. First one, since most of us cannot get through without electricity, please make sure you always have three things. One, you always want to make sure you have what? At least half a tank of gas and half a battery on your phone. Why? Well, why not just let them go out and I get it when it's empty? Because I don't have money it's going to cost you more to do what? Fill up. And what happens when you can't find that charge? You can't get to a plug. Half a tank of gas, half a battery, no less than half on your cell phone. Two things that'll help you immediately. A flashlight, little thing. Doesn't have to be anything major, just a little flashlight. Why? Because most of you are scared of the dark. You like to be able to see where you're going and what you're doing. So that little bit, there might be a little LED that comes on your flashlight, on your chain, or some of the keys actually have them on them. If you have it, that should be your best friend. My best friend, everybody has it. Most of us who had chores hated them. Garbage bag. Why is this garbage bag my best friend? Because this is everything in a dangerous situation. I can actually wind these things together and make rope. I can use them as a pillow. I can use them as a flotation device. If I'm trying to get out of the city with all of my stuff and I don't want anybody to bother me, what am I going to do? Put on some filthy sweats, put on some little mustard, little ketchup, barbecue sauce, gin. Gin is great because it has a really, really aromatic smell. You can smell gin from a block away. But I'm gonna pour it on me. I'm gonna make sure I'm filthy and put all my good stuff, my ham radio, my laptops, all my other good stuff in a garbage bag, and you let me walk past you the whole way. You will walk over me and $10,000 worth of survival equipment because I'm pushing around in the shopping cart with a garbage bag. And I look like somebody you don't want to mess with. It's all about awareness. Other little things, the little LED headlight. Why? I tell you to get an LED headlight, not just a regular flashlight, because with the LED headlight, not only do you have your hands free, if you're in a survival situation, do you want to be holding a flashlight when you fall? What's the first thing you do when you fall? You reach out, right? So now I fall, and now I lost my light. Now I fall, I'm in the dark. I'm terrified. So the little LED headlight, because it doesn't just have to go up on your head, put it around your neck. You don't even need to necessarily shine. You don't even need to necessarily shine it up. You just shine it down so you can see. All right. So one of the other most two last things. One, anybody know what this is? It's a container. You're looking at it going like, what is this? How is this? What is? This was the water bottle. Wasn't even mine. All I did was crush it to make space, put the cap back on it. Now the vacuum is gonna hold it down. I can put 5 of these in a pack as opposed to 1 bottle, right? See how that just worked? Now when I'm trying to figure out how am I gonna carry that water I found at the river or that water fountain I might still be good, I threw that in my bag, doesn't weigh anything. See how that works? I buy things differently because I know how I can use them. I don't buy the regular bottled water that's just the regular flush thing anymore. Why? Because I can't crush it. Even my gum, I'll make you laugh. My gum, anybody remember when gum used to have the little foil strip on it? Yeah. Not many of them do that anymore. The reason I chew the gum I chew, and I'm not giving it a brand name, but the reason I still keep these is because with a battery, I can literally rip this in half, and this foil will be a conductor. If I'll put it on 2 sides of a battery, literally the heat will make the paper on the inside burn. And now I have a fire starter without a lighter. Ain't that so? Why is he chewing gum the way well, this is the reason I'm chewing the gum the way I'm chewing it. And last but not least, this is something that everybody, less than $15 will connect you back to the world. $15 can connect you back legally to the world. It's called a ham license. Now, a lot of you go, I don't want to remember none of that stuff. I can't remember. I don't know how to use a phone, much less a radio. $15 for a license for a test where the answers are already online. There's 3 different levels of a ham license. Technician, general, and extra. All of them, the answers are online. They want you to be able to get this license. All you really got to do is memorize it. Go back and forth. They got sample quizzes. $15 is all it costs for you to get your ham license. This radio, all those bells and whistles, cost me $40. This wasn't even a good dinner in a steakhouse. But this right here will connect me to the world. And the further you go along with it, you'll understand that you don't have to spend a lot of money to stay connected. I can go on the internet. There's a lot of things I can do with the radio, not the cell phone. Mm-hmm. So I know we have to get ready to wind up, but yes. I just want to say being aware is something that will keep you alive.
Exactly. And you know what? One thing I know you didn't mention, maybe you said did this. One of the things that you talked about, how these plastic bags, and you know we all have them, we use it for our garbage. You can use it. You said something about or as a clothing.
This is clothing. Listen, this is clothing. Everybody, how many of y'all have ever? All right, ladies, y'all just had your hair done. It's raining. Who got the shopping bag on their head? Right, immediately, right? Who's ever been in camp or at a summer camp where, oh my goodness, they got caught outside by the rain accidentally, and then you did what? Put a hole in this, dropped it down, and you had a poncho. Now you get the heavy duty ones and you could do even more with it. Hey, listen, if I need to get, I don't know, leaves or something to carry, you know, sticks and stuff with, I don't want to carry a bunch of sticks like this because it's gonna poke me, and then I have my hands, they're not free. But put a bunch of leaves in here, don't leaves burn? Well, look, I got a container. That's exactly what it's for. It's not just for garbage. We call it a garbage bag because that's what we use it for. But it could be anything you want it to be. I'll put a couple of these together and I got an air mattress.
For those out there that are interested in finding out more about your work, because I know that you do a lot and offer a lot of workshops, how can they connect with you?
My website is it's almost always down because I'm always out in the woods. I'm gonna be honest with you. But X Factor Prep. PREP stands for Personal Resilience and Emergency Preparedness. X Factor is the unknown factor. It's the one thing that you can plug into what? Any question, right? Any problem and get the solution you want. X is always that unknown. Now I am your X Factor. So the X Factor Prep, that's the reason I got the name for the company, but X Factor Prep is xfactorprep.org. If you guys go online, you'll be able to see it, xfactorprep.org, or you can call me at 914-361-9653. And that's Wolf, if you don't know. It's 914-361-9653.
Well, Ali, you, as always, have really given us a lot of food for thought and a lot of things to consider as we plan forward into the future in terms of ensuring, or at least ensuring that we have some level of understanding what we need to do for ourselves, our families, to give them some sense of security in some uncertain times. Well, on behalf of Cultural Caravan, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me again.
Thank you.